Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making the vest with all the details for the Captain America the First Avenger cosplay. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay guys, so what you're going to be needing for this build is some blue canvas from Fabric Wholesale Direct. You're going to be needing some white fabric that I got from Walmart. I'll be putting all of these links in the description for you guys. You're going to be needing some textured gray fabric. What I used was some napkins, ironically. Is just all I had. I actually got them from a Goodwill. Funny enough, but you're also going to be needing a rotary cutter or fabric scissors, just something to cut the fabric. If you're using a rotary cutter, you're going to want a self-healing mat so you don't cut up the surface you're using. You're going to be needing a sewing machine, or you could sew it by hand, but I recommend sewing machine. It still works by hand though. You're going to be needing a hot glue gun and some hot glue sticks, and some EVA foam. I make a paper template just by tracing my shirt, just placing the papers on the shirt and then just tracing it and cutting it out and stuff. And then I start looking at reference photos to start making the design for the details all over the vest. There's like some details on the blue. There's that gray strip that wraps around the blue on the bottom. And then on the top of the white ab part with the padding and stuff. So then I draw lines for the padding bits. And yeah, that's what I'm doing right there. And I keep making these like shapes for the white padding on the abs. And the way that it goes is it's just a triangle going to the left on the left spot, and then a triangle going down to the right on the right spot. And then it just goes down all the way. But then once you get to the last padding piece, it goes up the other way. So then there's like a little sort of like a valley type of shape right there. So yeah. I start cutting out the fabric, and the way that I do this is I just trace it on with a Sharpie. And you're going to want to make sure that your fabric is on the bad side, because with the canvas that I bought, it has like, it's waterproof, so there's like a sort of rubber, I guess, side. So you're going to want to trace it on that side, if you know what I mean. And then I just trace it with the marker, and then I cut it out with a rotary cutter. But you could just use fabric scissors. Rotary cutter, it's like a pizza cutter, but for fabric. And then I just put a self-healing mat under so I don't cut up the floor. I keep cutting out the fabric, and there are a lot of pieces. You're gonna want to listen to music or watch a movie or TV show, YouTube video, something, because it's tiring work, and it does take a long time, but it is worth it in the end. So yeah, I'm just cutting them out with the rotary cutter. You could use fabric scissors again, like I said. So yeah. Now I start cutting out the white fabric. And what you're gonna want to do is, the way that I made the patterns is for all of them pretty much is I did half, and then I just, for the parts that I needed full, I just flipped it over and did that. But for the white, you're gonna want to do that for the bottom piece, because that's what you're gonna glue all the foam on to make the padding. But then the top, you're gonna want to just do two half pieces, because on the actual suit, there's a detail where it's top stitched on both sides and it's sewn right through the middle. So yeah, you're gonna want to do that. For the gray, you're just going to want to trace one side of the template, then flip it over and do the other one. So what I'm cutting out right now is the backer piece, I guess, for the foam padding, because there's the back and then there's the front that sews over the foam. So yeah. I then start sewing together the top piece for the white abs. Since I had to cut out two, I had to sew it together, and what I did here is I'm sewing it together like 3 times, because I'm gonna have to top stitch it, and that sort of separates the seam. So I'm just doing like 3 so I make sure that it doesn't separate. I then sew a full piece that's not that I didn't have to sew through the middle, just to the back of that part that I top stitched, because the fabric that I have is super see-through, so I had to do that. I also top stitch around the edges to make it look a little better. Now comes cutting out the upholstery foam, which is the second worst part of this whole thing. You see I'm cutting it out with an X-Acto knife, which you can totally do, but it's a way better idea to cut it out with scissors. Just make sure that you sharpen them, which I didn't do, but you should probably do that. You could just cut them out with scissors. I'm just using the pattern that I used for the abs, but now I'm cutting out each little shape and then just tracing it onto that upholstery foam and cutting it out. I start to hot glue the foam insert pieces onto the backer of the ab piece, because then we're going to sew the piece over it and then it'll show those shapes. I then start pinning the top piece of the ab onto the backer with the foam sandwiched in between. And this is quite a straightforward process. You're just pinning it on the outside of the foam, just like right on the fabric, but don't go through the foam because sewing machines do horrible when going through hot glue. So yeah, I then start sewing the top piece to the backer with the foam sandwiched in between. And this thing took like 2 weeks, but it's all worth it in the end. You're just going through sewing it. And yeah, just make sure not to sew through the foam though. I then start hot gluing all the other pieces on. And when you're doing this, make sure to not put too much hot glue. Like only put it in the middle of the foam piece, if you know what I mean. Because you don't want any glue squeeze out. I then start pinning this one together. Again, quite a straightforward process. Just make sure not to go through the upholstery foam because if you go through hot glue with your sewing machine, your needles are basically destroyed. I then start sewing this one on. Again, it's a straightforward process. It just takes a really long time, and yeah, do not go through the foam. I then start to sew together the chest piece, the blue chest piece for the suit. And yeah, this is a pretty straightforward process. Just sew on your lines, and yeah, pretty simple. I get to some top stitching, and I did briefly touch on it before with the white, but what top stitching is you sew the inside out seam, then you flip it inside out, and you sew right on that seam that you just sewed, but you sew right side in. And so it leaves it looking pretty heavy duty and like high quality. And yeah, it reinforces it a lot. Okay, now I start to sew the ab piece to the chest, and this is pretty easy as well. You just sew it, and then yeah, just quite simple process. If you want sort of a super simple rundown of sewing, go to my first video. I now start top stitching the gray piece on top of the white ab section, and I totally recommend top stitching. Just make sure that your thread color matches. I now start sewing up the whole back piece of the vest, and that's also pretty simple. I do use top stitching here as well. Again, I totally recommend that method. It looks really nice, but I'm just sewing it, flipping it inside out, top stitching it, and yeah. I then start sewing the back piece onto the front piece, and this is a little bit more complicated. Just make sure that you pin it up correctly, and it should go together quite fine. But yeah, I then start sewing the second back piece on, and the reason there's two is because I'm gonna add a zipper through the middle, and you could add it on the front, on the back. I then start pinning the zipper to one side of the back, and you're gonna want to make sure that you get a separating zipper, and you could use an invisible or normal one. I just found that a normal one's better. And yeah, I then start sewing the zipper to the back, and you're gonna want to use a zipper foot on your sewing machine, and then just switch it to the other side for the other side of the zipper. So yeah. Okay guys, so I just finished the vest, and this is what it ended up looking like. This is the front, and then this is the back, and it has all of the detail pieces, and it has the zipper there. In the front, more detailing, and the padded pieces with the upholstery foam, the textured gray fabric right here. That's what it ended up looking like. Then I added some EVA foam on the inside. Let me show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so I put some EVA foam under the gray fabric right here, just to reinforce it a little bit because it is the thinnest part of the suit. So yeah, it's pretty much the vest. I honestly really like how it turned out. Let me zip it up again. Again, like I said, I honestly really like how it turned out, and it fits me quite well. It goes over the shirt pretty nicely. So yeah, that's the vest. Okay guys, so that was the vest. And if you liked the video or found it informative in any way, don't forget to hit the like button down below, because it really helps me out to get seen by the algorithm and all that. And subscribe if you like my content and would like to see more. Come back next week to see the video on how to make all of the straps and buckles, the bandolier, the leg holster, all the stuff like that. I post videos every single Friday. And yeah, bye.